That's right. It is the morning show right here on Facebook Live, Periscope TV, LinkedIn Live, YouTube Live, and of course, Apple TV. Glad to have you with us. On today's show, we're going to be speaking a little bit about safety. Yes, when it comes to the construction industry. Robert Mikkelsen is going to be joining us a little bit later, talking about some really cool products that he has, especially if you have a commercial building or maybe another place that you want to build. You definitely want one that has 100% allergy free, 3-hour burn rating, made from non toxic recyclable materials, no mold or mildew, low maintenance, no termites, bullet resistant, cost efficient, and insulated. That's all about the smart, safe superstructures for urban communities, good for residential as well. We'll be talking to Robert around the corner. Super excited about this. New technology, of course, is always very cool to talk about, especially when it comes to fire season. Thankfully, we're entering the fall season coming up around the corner. But what about this? What about investigating somebody or someone or something that you might suspect? We're going to be talking around the corner. This is very interesting. Investigator. What do you do to hire an investigator? Well, the owner and founder of K and Associates Investigations is going to be joining us just around the corner. I got a lot of questions that need answers. We got Mr. Jesse Sanchez over there. Good morning, Jesse.
Good morning.
Sorry, that's one of our guests there. That's you, Jesse. I had somebody else's face on you. Anyway, really quick, Jesse. Obviously, look. You ever watch what programs did you ever watch that where you had like investigators do an investigation? Have you ever wanted to be an investigator or investigate somebody?
Let's see. The only investigation show, I'm not a big fan of cop shows, but you know what? I don't know if you remember the TV show Monk,
I love that show. Yeah.
r- right? I'm like, oh, I can do that. I'll be an investigator. I don't think I can do what he does, but I think that would be interesting.
Well, he was very neurotic, if you remember. Like
Yes.
granted, his OCD really was like next level, but it made him pay attention to things in such a way. I love Monk. Now, one of the investigators that I always remember growing up with, and my dad loved to watch this so much so we would watch them over and over and over again, was Rockford Files. You ever remember the Rockford Files?
I've never seen it, but I have heard of it.
With James Garner, yeah. I think they should redo that with a new. I think it's time to redo a new Rockford Files. I think they tried that. They may have tried that. I don't remember. Anyway, we got lots of stories to talk about, including social media shout outs coming up around the corner. Stay tuned right there. We'll be right back right after these messages. Stay tuned. All right. Appreciate each and every one of you for tuning in. Lots to talk about, including your comments. Let's look at Periscope really quick. We've got J Rods tuning in. It's your first day on Periscope. Thanks for joining us. Hopefully, it won't be your last. We've got lots of stories to talk about. Barolo tuning in. Ardbard tuning in as well. Thank you. Let me bring up Facebook over there just for a minute here. Let's see. Let me bring up Facebook. And wherever you're tuning in from, thank you. Let's see. We've got Penelope Green, Stephanie Reed. We got Fraser over there. Shout out to Fraser at Doublemint Radio, which tomorrow, check it out. I'll post the. I think he does it live. I hope he does it live. I don't know if he records it. Sometimes people record these and then rebroadcast. I think he does it live. I'll be on his radio, Doublemint Radio over there tomorrow. Looking forward to that. And I think Pacific time. He's in Scotland, Edinburgh, by the way. So that'll be an interesting conversation. Alexa Costa. Alexa, good morning. Good to see you. Delia tuning in. Thank you, Delia. Algenia, thank you for tuning in. Let's see. Fraser says, let's see. Algenia says, good morning. Good topic. I am a CIS monk girl.
Nice.
Let me bring Jesse back there. Let's see. Fraser says, Law and Order, new cops on the beat, Sanchez and Sanchez.
Right? That would be cool. I think we could do it.
We can totally do it. Rose Romo tuning in. Thank you, Rose, for tuning in. Let us know where you guys are tuning in from, especially if it's your very first time. Feel free to share. Get your friends in on this. It's always happier with more friends, right? Although sometimes there's some shows I watch and I'm like, I don't want anybody to know I'm watching. Does that make sense? You know?
No.
Come on. There's certain like news programs I'm like, why am I watching this? I don't want to show people I'm watching this.
Why are you watching Alex Jones or something?
No. I used to listen to him though. I find the guy entertaining.
Five
I'm
seconds.
not gonna lie. There's some things that he says that rings true, and then there's other things that go, where did he lose his head?
2 seconds.
But it is a thing. That's right.
That's right.
It's the morning show right here on ABC News Radio KMET 1490 AM. Joining our already live streaming audience over there on Facebook, Periscope, YouTube, LinkedIn, and of course Apple TV. Glad to have you with us. On today's show, we got lots to talk about, including a little bit of cool news when it comes to building materials. Not something I think a lot of you are used to listening to, but you know, with the fires and with other things that are going on in this world, obviously you want really good fire resistant, not fireproof. I don't know that there's such a thing as that, but a 3-hour burn rating, giving you the opportunity to get out. Yesterday in the city of East LA, there was a very big building actually that was on fire. Massive fire, by the way. Reminds me of this. This just happened yesterday in the city of East LA, which right there on Whittier Boulevard, which isn't too far from where I am right now. And looking at the fires, it was just massive. And I think of that situation, I think of the wildfires, and think of all the things that we've had. Thank goodness it's tapered off, not 100%, but it's been tapering off. And I can't wait for the cooler weather, of course, around the corner. But we'll be talking to Robert Mikkelsen, who's tuning in a little bit later, and we'll be talking about his smart, safe superstructures. He's actually also well known for some of the private homes of Hollywood's elite families and stars of James Bond films. So how cool is that? We'll be talking to him a little bit later on. With hurricane and wind resistant of 200 mile per hour winds with glass of the same ratings and known to withstand 6-point earthquake without any damage, not even a crack. I need myself one of these homes. Seriously, I think he's also got bullet resistant. I can see why he's to the stars. Okay. Also, speaking of which, we're going to be talking about don't get caught in the act. Just don't do anything silly, dumb, and or unexpected, right? There are investigators out there like K and Associates Investigations. If you've been wondering, wait a minute, I have a question. Maybe it might be a child custody case. Maybe it's a law team that you're working with, and you're like, you know what? I need to put an investigator on this person. Well, he's going to help you, actually. His company does a lot of this. And one of the top things I think that they deal with is, of course, infidelity, right? Marital problems, what's going on? Is he or she cheating on me? And what do you do next, right? So, of course, lots of questions there. But I have some questions on the child custody thing. I really do, because I know of a lot of families right now that are breaking up, and unfortunately, and there are some cases where the husband and or the wife are not always on the up and up, and sometimes not doing the best thing for the kids as well. So we'll be talking to him in just a minute. But first, Jesse, obviously, lots of questions I got. We got Jesse Sanchez over there. Good morning, Jesse.
Good morning.
So obviously, my top question of the week is, what's going on with the movie theaters?
Oh, I have no idea. And it's just like as far as I know, none of them are open, at least in California. And I just heard recently that Regal Cinemas is considering closing, or they are closing. But yeah, hopefully, I honestly don't see theaters opening up anytime soon. So either they start popping out these drive-in theaters or restructure movie theaters so that we're all not packed in there like sardines.
Yeah, I think outside is probably the best option for them to do. Take all their movie theater parking lots and revamp them just for the time being, right?
Yep.
But, there's different ways to do that. It's not the movie theater experience anybody wants, but it's the next best thing. All right, well, let's switching gears just a bit. We got our next guest ready to go there, and it's all about what do you do when you suspect there's something going on that you need an investigator for? Well, spending time with us right here, right now, all the way from K and Associates is Mr. K himself, Andy K. Good morning. Welcome to the show, Andy.
Hey, good morning. How you guys doing today?
Doing fantastic, but I gotta say, how are you doing? Are there ever any cases that you go, I don't know if I'm gonna escape with my life? But I guess if you're a good investigator, you always will, right?
So far, I've done pretty well. So yeah.
Well, and I ask that because, I don't know about you, but I personally, as a young kid, I remember growing up on the Rockford Files. And the Rockford Files was this, if you didn't know, James Garner, right? This man who's in a he gets hired by all sorts of people, and some of them are like, cases where he doesn't never want to take, but he takes it anyway, and then it finds him in harm's way. But I don't know, is that more real or not real?
That's more not real, actually. We don't do much. I mean, I grew up on those same shows, and I wish it was a little bit more real in certain ways. I mean, Magnum had a Ferrari.
Yes.
James Gardner had a Camaro. I mean, they all had cool cars and everything. And, most private investigators are hiding somewhere in a Prius or a Volkswagen.
Got it. Okay. Well, thank you for being real with me on that, because you never want to stand out, right? You never want to be that person.
Yeah, it's on surveillances and stuff, which fortunately I've been doing this a long time. I don't do a whole lot in the field surveillance myself. We have plenty of guys that do that, but yeah, you definitely don't want to stand out. You want to be as innocuous as possible, and in LA, Prius does it.
Yeah, I get it. I do. Okay, so question, obviously. Number one, what type of cases are the cases that you take? Because I understand among the top, obviously, the most obvious one that I would think of, obviously, is if somebody wants to hire an investigator, is your spouse and or significant other cheating on you? But before we get to that obvious one, I kind of want to talk about child custody cases. In what way, in what cases do you usually get that is important to get an investigator on?
Well, you want to find out, if the child is actually being taken care of. You want to find out if the people around the child are, good people. You don't want, mom's new boyfriend to be some, sex trafficker or, running prostitution or things like that. So we quite often we'll investigate the people that are around the children. We'll make sure that the kids are getting to school or where they're supposed to get to. A lot of times in custody, one party or the other is hiding income. So we have to find out where people are actually working and what kind of money they have. A lot of times people lie about where they're living, so we have to find them even. So there's a lot of facets to child custody investigations.
I'm glad you're bringing that up. I know of literally in my head right now 12 that are currently doing that, and none of them hired a private investigator. And what I find oftentimes is typically the one suspecting it, at least in very common cases, they just don't have the money to do so. Can I ask you, in reality though, how does that work? Maybe because I know of like 3 of them where the guy makes a lot of money, but he's the one probably doing all the bad.
Well, then not necessarily. I mean, the tide has turned a lot with custody anymore. The mothers and the fathers are both getting custody the same way.
Okay, so because there is one that I know of, I can't talk about personally. It's still in the court system, but talk about hiding money. There are some of those that are out there that say on paper they don't make a dime because that's how they structure everything, right? Offshore accounts and such. So are you saying you basically can find that asset, which you don't really need to be like, following them or tailing them, but you just have the ability to do much more than the average person?
Yeah, absolutely. We have a lot more access to information than normal people do. But the other thing is judges can impute income. If they see how a person is living, then they can impute the income to decide that, hey, if he's living in Beverly Hills in this house, even though he's got it in a trust, and, he's driving a car that's also in a trust and all these things, we know who controls that trust. We can look into that information and find out that he actually controls the money. And so at that point, if he controls it, he should be paying. I don't know many people that are in those situations that are willing to just not pay anything.
Huh.
They just want to pay, what it takes to take care of a kid, usually. I
I,
mean, obviously, there's some people that are just really bad people that don't want to take care of their responsibilities, but that doesn't happen
I
that
happen
often.
to know of 3. I don't know why my circle is around these. Maybe because you and I were meant to meet each other at some point. Because I can guarantee you, I'm going to hire you at some point for these families when I do have the money. But okay, look, let's talk about the very general stuff that you guys do over there, which is probably among like 80% of your clients. Can you talk about that?
I'm sorry, could you repeat that?
Yeah, sure. Like, what are the typical 80% of your clients that come through your doors?
I would say either people that are looking for finding out what their husband or wife are doing, their spouse, boyfriend, girlfriend, that situation. Or the other thing is we do a lot of custody and criminal cases. We do a lot of criminal defense cases.
Okay. And you do something that I think is really important as well, especially for those that are hiring like a nanny or in-home help, because I have to say I've heard of probably 8 different cases of which nannies are either abusing the kids. Like, how do you set that up? Or is it just more background checks on certain people that sometimes people don't end up doing, but they can run through you?
Yeah, usually it's better to be ahead of these things, and a lot of my longtime clients or people that already know us, they'll get ahead of it. And before they even hire somebody that's going to be in your house in pretty intimate terms, you want to know exactly who they are. And people are a little lackadaisical about it. They hire people that they don't have any information about. So, background searches are the best thing. If you suspect something, once you've already gotten that person in the house, then what we do is we set up cameras and things like that. Obviously, you've seen all the different nanny cams and the videos that have been out for decades now. And we just handle things that way.
I want to talk about something that, because I think the majority of families right now, and I hate to say this, I really do, but during coronavirus, everybody's more indoors, right? And sometimes there's cases where people are outdoors, but you're like, oh, I'll be very honest. I saw somebody literally as I was driving on the freeway having an inner office romance in a business. And in the office, they had their lights on. And I was like, whoa. And I saw a little too much. But I thought about that. I thought, there's a lot of people saying they're going to work when in reality, they're just having some fun on the side. But that could be kind of damaging to the family there at the house. So how often do you, like, what's the typical stakeout? Like, how in the majority of cases that you get of potential infidelity, how many of them are actually more true? In other words, like the person on the other side felt it, they just couldn't prove it.
Well, actually, we do statistics every year on how many of the males are right about their, what they suspect, and how many of the females. And it comes out every year that the women are, mid-90s, and the guys are between 45 and 55%.
Because women have that sixth sense. I don't know what it is, but they just know. And men were kind of dumb about it. So, okay, look, obviously we're running out of time, but for those that want to hire you and or check out all the services that you have over there, what's the best way to find your team?
Go to our website. It's kayandassociates.com, and it's KAYAND spelled out and associates spelled out.com. That's the best way you can see everything we do there.
Okay, I still have a lot of questions for you, and I guarantee you, I'm gonna give your name out to so many people that have been telling me, yeah, I don't know how to get or capture this villain from doing all the stuff he's done. One of them was turned into the FBI, and the FBI has been so busy with their own stuff, they haven't even done the investigation towards the monies and where it's at. That's how bad these things get that I know of. But I know of a lot of cases, so you and I are gonna become really good friends, okay?
I look forward to it.
All right, for those of you tuning in, kayandassociates.com, that's where it's at. If you are suspecting perhaps infidelity, or you're just like, I need to prove something, especially when it comes to child custody cases, I'm telling you, there are some nefarious people out there, many of which usually are the guy in the cases that I know. But as he said, I mean, look, everything's up for grabs. There really is. So if you suspect and or need somebody in your corner, kaneassociates.com is where it's at. Okay, we're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back right after these messages with more. All right, for those of you tuning in, thanks for tuning in. Again, kaneassociates.com. Very interesting. In fact, I'm going to bring up their website. I haven't checked it out yet. kaneassociates.com. You'll see him there. So if you see him tailing you, that's my only thing. I'm like, I wouldn't want my face on everywhere. You know what I mean, Jesse?
Yeah, indeed.
I'm like, I was a little tempted not, but he has his face everywhere. If he's following you, yeah, hopefully he's your friend. But I've always wondered what the life is like a private investigator, right? Do you have any friends? Because, you know, they're like, wait, are you investigating me or are you my friend? But there you go. But I've thought of past jobs that I think my intuition's always on. Always on. I can always call it out. I always know. I think I'm more of like the 98% percentile, and it always comes out. Sometimes I'll approach the person and get it out of them, and sometimes there's a way of getting something out of somebody, but you got to do it when they don't expect it. And it's better to be in person to look for the visual cues, right? I think some people just know when other people are lying to them. And then other people are just like, I just feel like this there's something there. That's women. That's the majority of women. So I say, if you're going to cheat, you might as well let them know you're going to cheat, because they're going to find out eventually, and you're just delaying the inevitable. Yep. Which I say, if you're in a relationship, you should be open and honest about it, right? But it's difficult. I get it. I do. But, you know, men were a little less intuitive like that, it seems, you know, on average.
You see, I don't think I would be a good investigator because my first instinct would be to get some type of theme song so that when I walk, it's like
Shaq or
yeah, Shaft.
Shaft. Thank you. What did I say, Shaq? I don't know what I'm thinking there.
You gotta get theme music.
Yeah. What were all the what were the private investigator shows that were among? Like, he mentioned a couple. Like,
I don't remember.
Gator. You know which one I love? Burn Notice.
Oh, that was a good show.
Love that show. Which he kind of investigates, but then he kind of takes them out at the same time. Remember, with his team?
Yeah, we got 4 seconds.
There's some people I'd like to take out like that. Just saying.
Oh.
Welcome back. It is the morning show here on ABC News Radio, KMET, 1490 AM. Joining our live streaming audience over there in social media. Lots of people saying some fun stuff over there. Let's see. In fact, let's see. Yeah, okay. I'll read these comments a little bit later. Some are like, yeah, I don't want my significant other to watch this segment because they might turn the investigator on me. Look, if you got nothing to hide, then you're fine. If you have something to hide, then, well, there you go. But kaneassociates.com, that's where it's at. If you're suspecting any one of these things, they work with child custody cases where they work with law teams. Asset protection, of course, very important. Sometimes people know how to funnel and or move the money so it doesn't look on paper. He mentioned something very important that I think a lot of people need to know, especially if you're in a relationship with somebody that knows how to finagle things. And if you could put anything into a trust, that makes it so that basically nobody pretty much can touch it. But I know of like 5 different people which have done this, move the money in a trust, and the significant other knows about it, but they can't prove it because it got moved, right? The very rich and the very high profile and the very highest of highs, typically that don't like to show their taxes before this reason. I make nothing. I thought you were worth $1 billion. But I only pay myself like $50,000 a year, so I don't pay the taxes. It's all in corporations. It's all funneled into the child's name, into a trust. This is a thing. This is a real thing, by the way, people. And so there you go. But if you suspect that, you might want to check that out. Background checks for families with nannies or in-home help. That's important. And there you go. So go check it out. It's right there. I'm checking it out right now. It's kandassociates.com. They're a full-service investigations firm, and they do it all. And I don't think there's any too big of a case that's too big for them. So go check it out. All right. Switching gears, we got a little bit of the chat room buzzing over there. We got Bobby over there. Says, I always watch for people tailing me. I spoof my wife all the time. In other words, he pranks her. Lizzie Herrera tuning in. That's a good relationship when you can, prank your own significant other. Just be careful when they prank you because, boy, oh boy, it comes to rear its ugly head. Sammy Sneed is tuning in. Thank you. Lucy Nickel, thank you. And let's see. Holly, thank you. Aaron Murphy, thank you. Algenia, thank you. Maria tuning in, thank you. Fraser saying this. Cineworld is closing due to no new films, and the nail in the coffin is the delay in the new Bond film. I will say some of them are saying, oh, we're going to wait till after that. We got Mr. Jesse Sanchez over there. So what do you think is going to go on there, Jesse? What are some solutions we can offer maybe the movie industry, if any?
The only thing I can say is find a bunch of open lots and set up some type of pop-up drive-in.
Yeah.
And that's the only thing I can think of. And other than restructuring the inside of the theater, so you're not all sardines.
Yeah, I had a private conversation to a producer friend who's done really well in the movie industry as of late. Has a big slate of films ready to go, but we had this conversation. I said, look, you have to plan for at least 3 to 5 years out, and with coronavirus, I know everybody wants a cure by tomorrow and or early next year, or so do I. But we have to start admitting to ourselves where we are in the stream of time and saying, okay, well, how do we work around this, right? And the reason I say that is this coming Sunday, actually, there's something I'm doing with the La Femme Film Festival, which I do each and every year. And the La Femme Film Festival has been pretty consistent, I think, for the last 15 to 18 years with Leslie Lepage and the entire filmmaker people out there. And each and every year, for those that watch a lot of my content, I'll usually be on the red carpet, and usually I'm accompanied by several co-hosts. And we'll do red carpet interviews with each one of these independent filmmakers. But this year, of course, there is no film festival that you can go into. And typically, they use a Regal Cinema in LA Live, which is a fantastic place to show your film. A lot of the filmmakers just love it. But I've had sad conversations with filmmakers and people putting the monies together, and one of which is going to move to Australia because they say, well, it's easier to do a production out in Australia than it is here because they've, done the right thing, done the hard thing, and are continuing to do the most difficult thing, which is, not throw caution in the wind. But a lot of productions are taking place in other countries, unfortunately, because, we haven't done the right thing here. So, look, whatever side of the aisle you're standing on, here's what I could say. Tune in this Sunday. We're going to have a whole virtual meetup. It'll be a 5-hour meetup. And by the way, you can participate with the live version of the film festival, which is pretty cool. It's an online film festival. You get your tickets there. You can have an all-inclusive pass to everything. I think it starts at $49, works its way down, which those of you that have been at film festivals, you get to watch every bit of content, and sometimes you get to meet the people in person, but it's more of a virtual meetup. So we're combining the best of two worlds, which is watching the show all together with all other people. How cool is that? So you get to watch all the great independent films, short form, long form, and then have pretty cool interaction online, so you don't have to feel alone. And that's a new thing as of late, but it's an old technology that's been around for quite some time, and you know what? We're taking and making use of it. So we'll be talking about that around the corner. La Femme Film Festival. Go like them on Facebook. I'll be posting a lot about it this week, joined by some great co-hosts. Can't wait to introduce you to them, and much, much more. Okay, we got to take a quick break. Our next guest coming up around the corner. Stay tuned for more right after these messages. All right, for those of you tuning in, getting ready for our next guest. Help me out again. It was Mickelson?
Meckelson.
Thank you. Thank you. Apologize. Robert Mickelson tuning in, coming up around the corner from Studio RMA. He's the CEO. And he's really raised the bar for construction materials. And shout out to Rosalie, says, what did I miss? You missed a really cool conversation with a private investigator team. That was I think that was like one of those, I don't know. I guess if I were to get into that, I hear it's a lot of just staking out time, which is no fun. I should have asked what type of like there's bathroom breaks you probably can't take, right, Jesse? Like what are the things nobody talks about that you have to do in a stakeout, right?
Does he do disguises as well? My mind is just going into all these silly.
I don't see why not.
I know it's all serious, but I'm pretty sure I can have fun with it.
I'm saying,
I can guarantee you 95% chance I'll be humming the Mission Impossible theme song.
Dun, 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 dun.
And then I can just imagine everyone staring at me like, what is this guy doing? 10 seconds.
All right. Can't play that music because we'll get copyrighted. That's the only thing I don't like about streaming. I hate that.
2 seconds.
Can't play nothing. That's right. It's the morning show right here on ABC News Radio, KMET 1490 AM. Joining our already live audience there, Periscope TV, YouTube Live, LinkedIn Live, and of course our good friends over there on Facebook. Big shout out to each and every one of you tuning in. There's a lot of information going out there when it comes to construction. And are you building your own business and or new house properly? Well, joining us right now is somebody who's really raised the whole industry standard. Robert Mickelson tuning in with us. Good morning. Welcome to the show, Robert.
Good morning, Aaron. Thanks for having me.
No, thank you, Robert, for joining us. Look, I understand when it comes to construction and building, a lot of teams know how to do these things, but sometimes not always with the best materials. Your materials, let me just back up just a minute here. And let me start with this. Is it true that you've actually helped some private homes of families, including stars of James Bond films?
I did in France, yeah. In my younger years, it actually started off my career.
Okay, first of all, that's a pretty cool start of the career. What was the first experience that you had that you said, you know what, we need to make it like the James Bond film? None of this fantasy stuff, because you've got bulletproof. Bullet resistant, very important, bullet resistant type of construction. You've got things that no termites will want to eat. You've got 3-hour burn rating in cases. What was that particular moment you says, no, I think we can do this?
Yeah, I was working on a spa in Desert Springs, and somebody came to me with that material. I knew it had been used in Europe, but it was now approved in the United States. So that's when I started experimenting with it. In 2000. Took me a couple of years to get it right and get the right client. But then I started working with it, building with it, and it's fantastic. It has a very high insulation, and it's indestructible. It can withstand fires, hurricanes, earthquakes, you name it.
Well, living in the earthquake central of the world, it seems like, it feels like sometimes. And let's face it, there are some areas which don't deal with earthquakes, but they deal with hurricanes as of late. And the hurricanes have been pretty massive. I understand these are also wind resistant to at least 200 mile per hour winds. Is that true?
That's absolutely true. Yeah, all the structures that were built with this material, we call it skip, were survived Maria and Irma, the big hurricanes in the Caribbean.
Wow. Okay, look, and just on a pure non-disaster type of situation, you have really cool materials that I want to talk about the mold and mildew, because I think a lot of people don't understand, especially if like they have water damage or they have some type of, I don't know, infestation of termites. These materials, obviously, I can see in somebody that's like a celebrity and or somebody has a lot of money, but are there any ways to implement some of this in a with somebody that perhaps has like a regular, I guess my point is, what's the entry point to have one of these materials built as part of your new building?
Well, I would say cost-wise, it's not that more expensive than a wood house. You get a lot more for it. So I would say on average it's about 5 to 7% more expensive to get this quality home. And in the fire areas and the rebuilding areas, we are generally cheaper than wood construction. So that's a really important message because they need to bring in so many wood framers to rebuild those areas that we can actually build these superstructures under the price of wood construction. And I think that's one of the biggest messages that I want to get out, because people don't know. And then they start rebuilding the wood again and be scared all the time, all that stuff.
Well, I'm so glad you're talking about this, because I've been saying for quite some time we need to figure out a way to make it so that the economy rebounds, right, really quick and fast, and secondly, we have to put people in safer structures, because what I've been seeing as of late is a lot of structures being like, let's face it, the world is a little angry at us, it feels like, and there's more damage being done each and every day in certain parts of the world, including here in the home front, the United States of America. Let's talk about, like, I know that there's a version of like steel that has been kind of a thing as of late in certain structures, but is this a little bit less than steel and or more in comparison?
No, this is less than steel. Steel is more expensive. Yeah, concrete, the system has a foam core that takes the insulation, a wire mesh on both sides that is interconnected in a 3D space frame, and then it gets assembled on the job site. The panels come exactly to the right size, get assembled on the job site, and then on each side, 1.5 inch of concrete is applied. And that gives it that tremendous strength.
I'm already, you know what? I'm going to just do this in my next house and or business, because I'm thinking of so many applications for this. And I got to ask, obviously you get approached by people all around the world, right? And each and every country, I think some actually really put a lot of time into it, and then others just kind of throw caution in the wind and say, whatever, I'll just do it my way. Are you ever there on the on in some way going, why are these people not getting it?
Yeah, I do that a lot. But, once they get it, I can make them very happy. So that's the other side.
All right, let's talk about this. How can people find out more information about your safe superstructures and much, much more?
Well, the website is the best way to go. It's very informative, and that is www.studiorma.com. So I'll say it again, www.studiorma.com.
All right, before we let you go, I want to talk a little bit about something that, I said that the world feels a little angry at us, and I don't know if that's 100% true. Some say that's fake, that's not real. But either way, I always like to put it this way. Whenever you can not cause more damage to it, that's got to be a good thing, right? And I want to talk about the reduction of the carbon footprint based on your materials. Why is, because I understand that's what you have right now.
Yeah. With this material, we have built the first concrete carbon neutral home in the United States, 2010. And so that puts us a little bit down to understand what the system can do in insulation and so all those things. So now you can't build everywhere carbon neutral. That's a given. But you can reduce probably the emissions that you normally have as a house by about 70-80%.
Wow.
Using this construction. And then with that also comes the cost savings. It's not only green, it's also cheaper.
Well, let's talk about, and I hate to use the word cheap because cheap sounds like whatever, get a cheap car, right? But let's talk about the construction costs. And I understand in this article it could be cut up to at as much as 38%. How does that happen? I think you alluded to it earlier, how you bring it out and construct it all together, so time is of the essence.
Yeah, that's the 38 cost savings that has been expected. Is cost savings that start going when construction is actually itself going digital. So where construction can totally managed by computers, prefabricated parts, and robots. Now, I'm very happy to be part of that. We are also developing software to promote that and to implement all that based around this building system. So that's where we see the future going. In Europe, with using digital construction, we now, in Holland especially, with using digital construction, we can build homes in 7 days. So this is where the future is going. My software and my panel system is both part of that future. And that's where we should start seeing a huge revolution in construction.
Okay, Robert, I have another question for you. I'm just going to throw this out because I used to love this show. It's called like Beyond Tomorrow, right? And okay, I want to take your brain right now and just like isolate it. Can I keep you over the break? I got to take a quick break, but I want to keep you because I have some questions that I think you can answer that I've had in my head for quite some time, and I want to kind of powwow with you. Do you have like another 8 minutes after this break?
Yeah, I do.
Okay. Hold on there. We'll be right back, okay? For those of you tuning in, again, we're talking to Robert Mikkelsen, and he's got a fantastic ability to be able to make all of these building materials, not only wind-resistant, earthquake-resistant, burning, like you could be burned for quite a while, and it allows you time to get out. But we'll talk about that a little bit more around the corner with him. We're going to keep him. I've got some questions that I need answered right after these messages. Stay tuned. All right, for those of you tuning in, I am happy to announce La Femme Film Festival this Sunday. Go check it out, okay? If you want and or love the ability to be able to watch with other filmmakers and other people all at the same time, simultaneously, if you remember, we had Sia Live on the show a while back. At cya.live. If you go there, you can check it out. It's the La Femme Film Festival, and you can participate with the filmmakers live right there on the platform. I will be accompanied by some other great co-hosts this coming Sunday on a live 5-hour marathon of interviews. And normally we do this each and every year. We usually stream it, but how more important it is that it is happening this year so that all the filmmakers can get their films seen. And very important again. So if you are wanting to support the ladies in filmmaking, I'm telling you, we get to meet so many fantastic women doing these films and or behind the scenes on some of these films. Sometimes the writers, the directors, the producers, oftentimes the creative team behind. Usually it's a duo of men and women. The name of the film festival, La Femme Film Festival, by women for all. So, again, very good in discussion, which we're going to have there. So, cya.live. Yeah, get your tickets there. And we'll be streaming the interviews for free. You can see that for free and kind of whet your appetite on some of these films. And you might even say, ooh, I want to see that film, right? You mark it down, and then you just get maybe that particular film, which you could see. You could see just the independent films themselves if you just want to spend, like, on that one person. But I always say if you have the money to do so and you want to, join the rest of it, you can do so and feel like you're not alone, right? That's kind of always nice. And it's cya.live, cya.live. Live. Go there and you can check that out as well.
22nd.
All right, cool.
Five seconds.
All right, thank you, Jesse. That's right. It's the morning show right here on ABC News Radio, KMET 1490 AM. Joining our live streaming audience over there. If you're just joining us, we're actually having a very interesting conversation, which I cannot have enough of. Robert Mickelson, who's tuning in with us right now, with his Studio RMA, and they've got safe superstructure. They've got all sorts of copyrighted information here and trademark stuff. So important. Robert, you there with us?
Yes.
All right, Robert. Look, okay, here's my question, because I love to talk about technology today and tomorrow and beyond, okay? Here's my question for you. If the government wanted to be able to help the economy move forward in such a way that they made housing a little bit more affordable, if you were the person hired to be able to say, look, Mr. President, I can help you help the rest of the United States of America make affordable housing and make it secure, safe, and economical, what would be your first three things you would implement there, Robert?
Well, number one, I would make implementation that fire sprinklers are not required in concrete homes. Because currently, because of the fires, all houses are required to have fire sprinklers. So that's about a $30,000 per home. But a non-combustible house will not go into flames. So that would be the number one thing. The number two thing is require houses to have a certain energy rating, or at least the new houses that are being built, so that the energy efficiency gets locked in by a law. And the third thing would be to make sure that we have better infrastructure, more light rail and things like that, so that people can move around faster and without polluting everybody.
I'm glad you brought that up, because minus structures, I could imagine that there are other situations that can be implemented, not just safe structures, but I would imagine, let's talk about like the bridges out there. You are working with very forward-thinking engineers, futurists, and the like. My question for you is, talk about our infrastructure just for a minute. I know this is like off the topic of what you're currently doing, or maybe it isn't. Maybe it's a little bit more related than most people understand. What different ways would you possibly make it so that our infrastructure here on the home front would be safer, more reliable, and or even save a little buck at the same time?
Yeah, I think that would be implementing digital construction. In the UK, they are now demanding digital construction, where things get done by robots and prefabricated materials. They're implementing that in the last 2 years, and you see immediately a drop in costs for civil projects, roads, bridges, and all that, by about 20%. Overall, in Europe, where they do this a little bit longer, it's 25%. So digital construction is really, and mandating it, is really the way to improve the structures, but also to bring the cost down.
Robert, I'm all for doing exactly both. I think it's high tide, of course, that we look forward into the future. Is there any technology out there that you can't wait to get your hands on?
Wow, that's a nice question. I love carbon fiber facades because that allows you to do three-dimensional facades. I've been playing with it a little bit at the university in Constance, and it's an upcoming technology that also can be integrated with concrete. So those will be lightweight, Also moldable, meaning facades that have relief where you can have balconies attached to it out of fiberglass. That would be my dream.
I'm just looking for body armor. Is there any suggestion that you have like a really good, like I want a John Wick suit that has that body armor? I don't know if we're there yet. Do you? I feel like you have that connection though.
Yeah, Kevlar is the one that works very well, and we also use Kevlar in netting to protect houses in the hurricane zones from, flying debris. So if you have a large glass facade, we simply put some hooks in the concrete, and then when there's a hurricane coming, then you can put your Kevlar netting in front of your glass, and that protects it. So that's a terrific material.
Oh man, Robert. Okay, look. All right. Let's build the house of your dreams. What are the top 5 things you need to have in this house of your dreams?
Well, an incredible big TV screen, because I love to look at movies.
Okay.
That's one. Absolutely toxic-free. I don't want any toxic anywhere. Mold-free. And and I love to have a house that's carbon neutral. Where we collect our own water, have our own electricity, own climate control systems. That would be a dream for me to have. And I'd love to have it in Switzerland also.
Well, okay, let's just think a little bit into the future. Okay, let's put ourselves about 8 years into the future. And Robert, if you were the leading man to say, look, okay, people, we got to get our stuff together. We got to make the world a safer environment. Obviously, there's a lot of pollution. The wildfires combined. I mean, wildfires are a dime a dozen, let's face it. But in this last 8 years, I feel like it's gone so high. We're only pumping in. I mean, you got volcanoes doing their thing. You've got corporations just spewing things into the air constantly. In the LA area, our pollution has gone to the nth degree. One article which I saw, which actually makes those that already have problems with their lungs worse. So then if in the event they actually get a disease and or a something in their lungs, also known as coronavirus, whether you think that exists or doesn't, my point is our bodies are starting to be torn down quite literally, slowly, by the things that we're inhaling, the things we're ingesting, the things that are going in around the air. But I guess my question to you is this: forward thinking, how can we make not only because I understand some of these materials are very expensive to put in. So, like, you just built your own. I don't know how much that you could get that for your own dream house. Do you have a number there?
Yeah, I think you can do your dream house for an average price. I mean, the technology is really there. And then, or maybe you have to invest a little bit more upfront, but you get the savings back every month. So I think it's possible. I think it's closer than people think. They keep on repeating the wood framing because they're familiar with it and they know what to expect of it. But it's there in the market, moving very fast.
Well, I'm glad you're bringing that up because a lot of people invest a lot of money, and I think the average person doesn't know. Like, let's say I had a piece of land, I already own the land, right? About how much should I save to build a pretty average size home for the average American?
I think 250,000, something like that.
Yeah, that's. I mean, I could get a loan for that easy. Okay, look, Robert, thank you very much for spending time with us here on the morning show. Thank you for thinking, outside of the box and pushing us forward, because we need more innovators and more forward-thinking people thinking about not just our environment but also the economy and putting people back to work and doing so in a safe manner. For those again that want more information, where did they go?
It's www.studiorma.com.
All right. Again, everybody, go check it out. Really good information. And thank you, Robert, for spending more time with us than I know you were allowed. But thank you.
Hey, thanks, Aaron. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. All right. So there you go. Great engineer-looking mind. I don't know if he is an engineer. I didn't get everything on him, but I can tell you this. That man is so smart. I would listen to him. And seriously, the president needs to wake up and say, look, what do we do for our economy? Let's build more things and how many people are left without a home because it's so expensive, right? And land and places I could see financially, I don't see them staying at the same rates that they are, with businesses closing each and every day, leases not being paid, rent not being paid. We there's stuff that we could do to package it in such a way to keep us moving forward and not move back. Does that make sense? And I think if it makes sense to you, I think it can make sense to a lot of people. We just need more very smart people at the helm rather than people that just go, oh, it's all about me and not about everybody else. That's right. All right, people, I appreciate you. I love you. Whatever you're doing, keep doing it well. Again, Jesse, thank you for spending time with us here on The Morning Show. We'll see you guys tomorrow. Same place, same channel. Bye-bye, everyone. All right, for the rest of you tuning in, I want to say thank you as well. I want to say a big shout out to Bobby over there. Let's see, who also, well, actually, I got a couple shout outs, it looks like. I apologize. I sometimes with all the chat. Let's see. So I want to say big shout out to Bobby over there, Bobby Stamps, who donated 100 stars. Thank you very much for the 100 stars. Appreciate that. Thank you. And then I believe Katya Wunderland also sent another 100 stars. Thank you so very much, Katya, for doing that as well. Appreciate you. And appreciate all of you, okay? Whether you watch and or you support any of the stuff that we post out there, we appreciate you as well. Thank you, thank you, thank you. 1,000 thank yous. Let's see. Bobby says 200,000 show discount. I'm in. Let's go. Right? I know. Seriously, if you could do it for that much, I mean, how difficult is that to say, look, get a piece of land, right? And in some areas, it's a lot less expensive than other areas, right? But Southern California, very expensive, obviously, just a piece of land. However, when you think of cost materials, you think, I should have asked him how many rooms that built, right? How many, as long as I want an entertainment center room, I'm right there with him. But I would definitely want to put something that is all of those things, right? Especially if I lived in a hurricane area and or I didn't even talk about, areas like with tornadoes, which I don't know what those winds get at. But either way, if you can build a structure that's super safe and able for the rich and famous, I get it. They have, many have the money. But for those that don't have the money, I think there's lower... well, back to something he mentioned a moment ago, right? Technology, right? Being able to build things, A, with robots, and B, able to fabricate these things ahead of time, bring them in, reassemble them, and done. I know that's a really big thing in the steel structure world. I do come from some knowledge of building in that I used to help people's houses become energy efficient. So I understand what it means, first and foremost, to invest a little bit money in the forefront, but be able to return in your savings at the end of it all, right? And what I mean by that is simple. Like, you can invest a little bit more. For example, let's just take air conditioning, okay? Air conditioning technically is very expensive at the forefront, especially if you go higher in the SEER rating, okay? SEER rating stands for Seasonal Energy Efficiency. I can never remember. But the higher the SEER, the better on average, but that depends on where you live. Not every place is the same. So you have to look at where you live, how difficult it gets there in your area, if it gets super cold or it gets super hot, or if you're just average temperature, which here in California, lately it's been very hot, but in certain areas like in the mountains and or maybe other areas where it gets super cold or super hot, there's certain materials that are more necessary than other areas, which is, let's face it, Southern California, we're kind of not super extreme. Not really. I mean, as of late, it's felt pretty extreme, but not as extreme in certain areas where it's very extreme. So I'm going to say we're in Southern California, at least in the LA area, we're a little bit, of course, what I would say, I guess the proper word is we don't know what extreme weather is. We really don't. But I've traveled in certain places where I go, oh my God, this is extreme. And obviously people are like, yeah, we have no insulation. There's lower income communities as well that sometimes deal with this mold and mildew. He mentioned something very important, mold and mildew, which I had people ask, what does mold and mildew do? And unfortunately, if you have mold or mildew in your facility, whether you live in a one-bedroom apartment and you have like a slumlord millionaire that is just pocketing the money and not fixing what needs to be fixed, there's a lot of people in lower income properties to almost no income properties. You understand what I'm saying? There are certain people in what are referred to as projects. There's certain people that are barely making ends meet. And there's certain owners and or there's an interesting documentary. Okay, go check it out. I can never remember it when I need to. It's called Dirty Money. There it is, Dirty Money. And go check it out. It's on Netflix. Okay. And there's one very interesting one that comes to my mind. And it's called Jared Kushner Exposed, Slumlord Millionaire. Go check it out, okay? Whether you like him or hate him, here's what I got to say. If you own a lot of property and or real estate, oftentimes you're at the very top and you're just collecting your money, right? You usually hire a lot of people to do the work for you. And those that know or are investors, you have usually a management company run your facilities. But if you go check out that documentary, Dirty Money, Slumlord Millionaire, it's probably like a good 48 minutes of content. There are things in there that, back to, look, whether you like him or hate him, Jared Kushner, I don't really care. All I do care about is there's a lot more like him. Does that make sense? There are many that are just pocketing the money. And instead of just saying, oh, okay, I didn't know this was happening. You know what? Let me get rid of the management company. Let's switch things out and let's do the right thing by the people. Because back to mold and mildew, if you are a millionaire, billionaire, and or just a landlord that is currently facing this, you want to get rid of that as soon as possible. That could cause a lot of problems for the lungs, the family members, the little babies, the people that are breathing in these toxic chemicals. Oh, that's right. It's not always just mold or mildew. Unfortunately, there's a lot of corporations out there that are spewing gases into the air. You know, I get a lot of people are upset about China. You know, China for a while there literally only had the ability to get little oxygen in certain areas because it was the air was so bad. Love it or hate it, manufacturing and in certain areas, in certain communities is so bad, they'll send out. I remember, for example, I have this friend who lived in Hacienda Heights for quite some time. And all of a sudden, in the mail, he got this information from a local factory which was spewing stuff into the air. And so they said, this is a chance of cancer, by the way. We just need to let you know that. Huh. Okay. And about within weeks of that notice, he spoke to several people in his neighborhood, and each and every one of them talked about cancers that they were getting. To which people go, oh, it's not an isolated event. And now that people start talking, they go, wait a minute, why all of a cluster in a particular area, right? Is it the water? Is it the environment? Is it the gases that are being spewed up into the air, ingested by people's own ventilation system? I'm talking about your lungs, right? Your lungs are a really good ventilation system, which is why I have problems with people that put a lot of smoke into their lungs and or throw a lot of tar in there, right? Because you're only given 2 lungs, right? I mean, unless you have to get a lung transplant, God forbid, right? So let's try to keep those as clean as possible. But it's difficult, right? It's difficult. Because you have all these type of chemicals up in the air you never know about. Back to the Hacienda Heights. He moved him and his family outside of the area to another area closer to the mountains. Try to get, clear from there. And at the same time, now you got fires going up, right? So I get it. There's some places you could talk about it left, day, night, and center. And you'll never be able to overcome it 100%. But what if we talk to the very highest science of minds and say, look, science minds, let's do this. Let's get all into a room, jam-packed for a good 8 weeks. Okay, look, I know I'm not president, but if I were president or a very influential man, I would put the top minds into the same room and start having these conversations of saying, okay, A, how can we make this happen? B, how can we do so affordably? It's always down to cost. And C, how can we make it so our economy not only rebounds, but also financially speaking, people get put back to work because these building materials and or building costs are done in such a way that we can do these very fast, very simple. And back to our homeless population, we could give them at least something. Maybe it's not bullet resistant. Maybe it's not I don't know, but there's got to be a way to put our very homeless into a safe structure that is at least well ventilated and or has proper cooling materials, right? In areas it's very hot and or difficult to bear down under. Look, some of you are like, well, you can't help the homeless. And I say, I think there's a way to do it. I didn't ask him of that. I might ask him around the corner, but I think there's a way to do it. And I think we could do it as a nation safely, economically, and honestly, if we can help those at the very bottom, and when I say at the very bottom, those that either are so pressed down, so financially destitute, that we give them a moment of exchange of encouragement saying, look, I'm going to help you out. I don't ask for anything in return except for this. When you can get yourself up and out of the situation, do so and then help 12 other people. That's it. That's the only thing. I know some of you are like, that's pie in the sky mentality. I say, I don't think so. I think the majority of those of you out there are jaded because we have government, we have leaders, or we have thought leaders, supposedly. Back to Elon Musk. I love Elon Musk, okay? And I love the guy because he's forward thinking about where we're going to go if this world is gone. What I mean by that is, look, so much money has been put into traveling into outer space, going to Mars, going and moving our entire civilization eventually out of here, which is why I feel they want to terraform Mars and they have people ready to go be above and beyond over to Mars, right? It's almost like as though somebody got some information behind the scenes and said, at the rate we're going, we need a second colony happens to be on Mars because I think we could re-terraform that because maybe it was at one point like the Earth, but at some point maybe it got as bad as, can the Earth become like Mars at some point? Is that even a thing? I would ask some technology wizards that I think are behind the scenes that are like, back to Elon Musk. I don't think it's an accident that, what is it, trillions of dollars is being invested into moving a colony out into Mars, which I'm all for. Space exploration is amazing. The things we could do technology-wise, put satellites into our space, be able to communicate in such awesome ways. But I mean, now there's a space force, right? There's a space force of areas that want to be up in space for what? Military gain and or science or exploration. I don't know, but I do know this. We're at a pivotal moment in history right now, people. And what I mean by that is this. America was sending a nuclear war bomb across seas into another country to flex their arm, perhaps, against China. Don't believe me, research it. It's out there. You'll find it. Just look it up. If we have the ability to push a button and make a nuclear bomb explode, where are we putting our time and efforts in reality? Do you even know the cost to make a nuclear bomb that just sits there? Doesn't ever get used? The average cost is $1.8 billion. Believe me or don't believe me, missiles are a dime a dozen, okay? Those cost as well. But I'm talking about a nuclear bomb. Do you know approximately how many nuclear bombs are around the world just sitting in bunkers and or launch bays ready to go at a moment's notice like that? Don't tell me nobody has money. Look, I'm not here to say, hey, all peace, no suffering. Hey, no more wars are going to happen. That'd be great if that ever happened, right? But let's deal with reality. You need a gun in order to shoot somebody who might have a gun themselves, right? So I'm not saying, don't take my words out of context. I'm not saying you're not there to protect the people whom you serve. I'm not saying that. But here is what I'm saying. The United States of America has approximately, I think the last that I did research on, about 4,020 nuclear bombs ready to go. Now, there's a stockpile of pre-existing nuclear bombs, which are about, I think, average to, I think it was 3,408 that are just there, right? No longer attainable and or to have the ability, right? Now, if you talk about the nuclear arms race was just a lot of countries saying, you know what, I can make a bomb. Well, I could do that exactly Hiroshima as well. So no, I got more than you. Okay, I'm going to flex my arm and be more than you. So Russia, according to the last estimate, has approximately, let me see if I can recall this. Russia has approximately 3,000. No, that's right. No. They were about, oh, that's right. They're ahead of the U.S. on paper, or so they say. But does it matter? It just takes one. I believe the number was closer to, well, I'll let you do the research. Because if I throw out numbers, people will be like, no, that's not wrong. That's not right. Whatever. And I say, look, technically, on paper, Russia's ahead of the U.S. So what does that mean? You got to have more nuclear bombs in order to, look, it only takes one to decimate a whole people. God forbid we get to that point where in one reality, we have somebody flex their arm, I got a big nuclear bomb. It gets sent, hopefully gets shot down ahead of time. And if you don't believe me, there's footage out here right now, which, back to Armenia, by the way. A lot of people are protesting in LA, and people are going, why are they protesting? I talked about it here on the morning show as of a week ago. If you don't know the news, you should check it out. And people are upset, and I understand why. There's a war going on right now. People are dying. Bombs are going off. And if you don't believe me, just look at my Twitter feed. I posted some videos there. I try not to post them on my other social media feed because I don't want to be all fear-mongering, right? I don't want to go, right? But there are people here in the United States of America saying, how come the media is not covering this information? To which I say, I don't know. I'm covering a lot of information that's not being covered and or talked about, but look, I control my own show. So I don't have to stick by the rules of whatever anybody else says, which is true. It's just called do the research. There's wars going on right now that are affecting people, children. I saw a whole village be evacuated. And you're probably thinking, huh? What's he talking about? Because all we're talking about right now is Trump and coronavirus. Okay, he has coronavirus. How many other people have had coronavirus? It doesn't be the top story of the hour. Now, do I disagree? He should have, stayed in the hospital or stayed in isolation and not thrown his own Secret Service under harm's way by going to the state. I hope there's a divide there, right? I wouldn't want to be that. I'd take a bullet for you, but I won't take coronavirus from you. Seriously. Or maybe they have the vaccine, right? Maybe they have the secret vaccine already ready to go. And so, the Secret Service, okay, here's this. It really works. This is the right one. We haven't released it to everybody else, but whatever. Okay, so whatever. That's a whole other. There are people losing their lives right now, and unfortunately, people are upset, mad, and angry. So much so that here in the United States of America, there are people stopping whole freeways. It just happened as of yesterday. I saw one. It was a protest. It was a mild protest, but they stopped the whole freeway from people getting to where they needed to go. I said, that's kind of dumb and stupid, but I get the anger, the mad mentality of saying, look, people, we need to wake up. Pakistan is in the news. Afghanistan is in the news. And Afghanistan is at war with their neighboring, I would say, family. It's like a blood feud among family members. You understand what I'm saying? I'm pretty sure the DNA does not say, oh, I'm going to stop right here and just never continue. It's called the human race, people. It's called the human race for a reason. We are all humans racing to the finish line. Whatever that finish line, whatever your last day is, that's your finish line. And what's beyond that? All I got to say is I would hate to be the person causing more evil, more anger, more frustration, more murder, and or more killing around the world. Hey, I say take out the threat. Take out the person who wants to cause harm. I say do it. But back to Afghanistan. There's a lot of bombs going off there. I'm going to pull up my Twitter feed right now just to kind of help you understand what is going on. It's not being talked about in the news headlines as much. And I got to ask why. Is there slanted news there? Azerbaijan and Afghanistan are at war right now. This is serious, people. Some say, well, that's in their neck of the woods. There's always going to be a war. Well, if you don't believe me, the U.S. has already sided with certain neighboring countries. Here's an article where India tested a hypersonic nuclear-capable Shara missile. And the rest of the article reads, know how it adds to country's strength amid dispute with China. These are real articles. I do the research to make sure that they're right and not just fear-mongering. Sometimes I come across that are just fear-mongering, right? Meaning everything's kind of not real. They just kind of amplify the message. I'm not here to do that. Here's what I am here to do. Let's have the difficult conversation that sometimes family members don't even have, which is let's sit down and remember we're all a human race. Let's not get to the point where we're flexing our nuclear arms bomb. And if we are, okay, they're there ready to go. Okay, but let's not be little big children, right? Sometimes I feel big adults are big, whiny children, which just need to be corralled into a room and say, hey, let's wake up. Let's forget about the, what is it? The power that you have. I have more power than you, haha, right? You're there to put people at ease and or make your family feel better, right? We're all part of the human race. We live on this earth. We only get one earth. And if you don't believe me that a bomb would harm our environment like a nuclear bomb, where are we at in the stream of things, people? Russia has gone on record literally, and if you don't believe me, go check out Russian state-controlled media about how they can have a nuclear bomb that can go anywhere. And Vladimir Putin, not very happy about the U.S., by the way, in Russian literature. Yeah, I read it all. I take a weekend and I get caught up on it all because I don't have time during the week. But when I have downtime, I say, okay, what's going on? Oh. And I put the pieces together. It's not difficult to put the pieces together when you know what to search for, right? So be aware of what's going, not to amplify fear, but to say and or pray and or throw out the thought, hey people, let's wake up. And let's not just wake up. Let's remember why we're all here. Are we really here to cause more anger, more frustration, for more madness, more power? Because let's face it, at the end of the day, it always goes back to Nazi Germany, right? Evil dictator doing an evil act against other people, saving his own what he considered to be his own human race, right? We're better than them. Let's make ours a pure race. So we all have the same skin color and same hair, blonde hair. Who thought that up? Like, seriously, what was the stupid individual that thought that was the elite of the elitist, okay? And yet that same type of rhetoric is being spewed around the world by certain dictators out there. Let's face it. It's not always an isolated event here on the home front. It isn't. It's all around the world. So people go, oh, I don't know, I want to be that person, take on the world, right? I say, shoot, take on the world. Be the thought leader. Be the one who says, you know what? Yeah, we need to do what's right. Yeah, you know what? That might not be popular, but we get only one Earth. And I don't know about you, but I love this Earth. And although it may be around till I die, I certainly want it around for the rest of us. Look, agree to disagree. What's the purpose of mankind? Look, everybody's purpose is different. Everybody's relationship is different. Everybody's thought processes are different, right? Okay, so agree to disagree. But here's what I'd like to throw out there just for a minute. What if you're not here by accident, but you're here by design? And you're here by design in order to affect change in one of three things. One, you're here to affect change for those around you throughout life. Help them in their journey. Help them continue on in their life. Spread some love, spread some cheer, spread encouraging words, spread something that will help them in life, not want to give up, not want to throw caution to the wind, not want to just be that person that says, I hate my life so much, it's ugly, it's frustrating, and I just want it to end. Maybe you were put on this earth to help other people. Okay. Number two, a second option, or in tandem with the first option, right, is to be a leader in your own world. Does that make sense? What I mean by that is this. Sometimes there are people that are natural born leaders. True or untrue? I'd say true. Some just know how to take the lead. Others, not so much. So many end up just becoming, well, what do you say I need to do? Oh, okay, got it. But I think we're all born with a certain sense of knowing what's right versus wrong without ever really having to be told what is right versus wrong. And we all know that little kid who does something at the age of 3, right? Maybe they're at the age of 3 and suddenly they say something or do something, or they, like, I think when I was like 4, I think I did something, my mom caught me and I'm like, and I felt that moment of, right? That it's that conscience, the conscience somewhere in the brain, probably around right here. And it actually just alerts you, go, I think I'm doing something wrong, right? But why were you given that little gift in there, right? To know something's wrong, not to do it again, but we do it anyway. And it's a reminder. Oh, maybe I shouldn't do that again. That makes me feel really bad, sad, mad, and angry. Maybe that's, yeah, I don't think I should do it. But then our other mind, our frontal mind, says, no, I really like that. It brought me pleasure. It didn't bring the other person pleasure, until it all of a sudden brings you displeasure in life. And then you go, oh, yeah, that kind of brought me a lot of displeasure. Okay, I get why that conscience was put right in there, right? So become a leader in your own world. And what I mean by that is we all have our own little teeny tiny world. And what I mean by that is the people that you associate with, the people that you affect, the people that you are in control or not control of, but you might have an encouraging word or encouraging thought process, or you might even just say, how can I help somebody else other than myself? Become a leader even to yourself. Lead yourself out of a situation that you help put yourself in. Does that make sense? Some of us have put ourselves in harm's way. Back to something everybody can really attest to. Credit card debt. Let's just simplify it like that. Typically, somebody feels the overwhelming credit card debt when you're like, oh, I'm barely making the minimum payments and I just can't get out from under this. But wouldn't it have been great to be able to talk to your younger self and say, hey, younger self, let's not rack up the debt because eventually coronavirus is going to happen and we can't pay off all our debt just yet. So let's keep it minimal. Let's keep it just to what our needs are. That way we have it to go at a moment's notice, because credit cards are really great when you're in a pickle. But to have so much credit card debt, you go, Oh no, right? Agree or disagree? Sometimes people are like, no, that credit card debt was not brought by me. It was brought by my significant other, right? Now I'm paying for the cost. Okay, whatever. My point is this. Sometimes we bring upon ourselves certain situations that only we are responsible for. Sometimes we're not. Sometimes we're responsible for other people. And sometimes we take on their debt. But throughout life, we accumulate a lot of emotional debt. Does that make sense? We have so much emotional debt piled on our younger self, meaning from the moment that we are born all the way to whatever age you are, you've piled so much emotional debt onto yourself. It keeps going higher, and higher that yourself is buried somewhere in between, right? Usually I say like right in the middle because you're alive that you got to do these things, but you're not taking care of yourself. So in your own world, your own little sphere of influence, right? Some have this, they have a small circle. I heard of one just the other day. It says, I don't associate with anybody anymore, right? I'm just doing my own thing, literally. So they went from like this, because I remember they used to be all out and constantly, but there were people in their life that they couldn't trust anymore, doing swindling, doing underhanded things. They says, yeah, I've made my circle very small, almost non-existent. To which I say, uh-oh, that's isolating yourself. And isolating yourself is not a good thing. Putting people in your circle of trust that are more good than bad, I say, good job. Do those. Bring those into your life, right? You can help them. They can help you move forward. Back to the first purpose, right? Help each other move forward. So, yes, it's important to know who's in your camp, who's in your circle, who are those that are in your life that you need to help out, that you need to know that can help you at a moment's notice. Those people that you can trust, that you could turn to, that you can say, thank you for giving me whatever I need in my life, okay? Be that person, whoever that person is. And the third one, the third purpose I believe we're all here at least for is this. Learn to love. It's as simple as that. Very ambiguous, but quite profound when you put it into these words. When we're born, are we made to love at the very beginning? And what I mean by that is, when a young baby looks up, usually into the mother's eyes, and they make contact for the very first time, there is what is usually spoken of, but only is appreciated by those that have truly given birth. And it's this overwhelming feeling of responsibility, usually more from the mother. And if the husband and or the significant other is not in the same room, they may not experience that moment till later. But it's important to make that connection between the parent and the child. The child, though, will have immediate love. And that love is a bond. That love literally ties two together and gets them so that they, guess what? They just love their father and or their mother. They could never do any wrong. That's my mom. That's my dad. So we're all born with the ability to love. Sometimes we have to be reminded of that down the line. That's inherent in every human person. Where it gets squashed down is, let's take a bad parent. Or a parent that ends up becoming bad, right? Does evil to the youth. There's a lot of evil acts that some family members have done to other children. I'm not here to talk about that stuff. That part's depressing. But let's talk about the ability to love, okay? Remember what it's like to love and have more love for your fellow man and or woman and or child and or elderly one and or anybody with a different skin color. Does it matter? In life, each and every one of you have the ability to accomplish these 3 tasks. These 3, what I call purposes in life. Everybody's looking for their own purpose, but I say if you simplify it to those 3, eventually you'll find a common goal. Does that make sense? A common goal. But if you hold on to those 3 purposes, which I feel we're really here on this earth to do, you'll do so in different veins. Some people will become biologists. Some will be scientists. Some will be astrophysicists. Some will be maybe nothing in science. Maybe they're in accounting. Maybe they're somebody that cleans up after others. Maybe they're a teacher. Maybe they're whatever that thing is. That's a label. That's something that you're good at. You're given a certain set of abilities and you just happen to be really good in this particular field, right? Maybe it's music. Maybe it's very musically inclined. Your brain is just wired in such a way that it's so amazing for music, right? And maybe your ability to help people feel good and send out a good frequency into the world is your calling, right? Maybe it is something as simple as drawing, art, creative process. Maybe it's more logically centralized. Maybe it's more emotionally centralized and you become a great thought leader. Maybe you have all 5 of those. Here's the reality. We all excel in different abilities, but sometimes we forget our abilities because we heard or listened to somebody who says, no, I don't think that's right. To which I say, okay, well, maybe financially it doesn't pay off. I get it. There's certain careers that just financially do not pay off. But it brings you a lot of joy, a lot of happiness, a lot of good you may be doing. But now you need to supplement your income, right? Because financially we all have to pay our debts. We have to pay food. Everything is cost. So people get so overwhelmed with the cost of things, they often put their natural abilities on hold and go to the worker mill, right? Because they have a family to take care of, which is more the right thing than the wrong thing because now you're taking care of others, back to your original purpose. So sometimes in life we have to say, well, what am I doing that adds up to all 3? Am I only putting myself first or am I putting those I love second? To which sometimes you have to put yourself first in order to help the others second. Does that make sense? Some people put themselves, back to mothers. Mothers typically put themselves at the very bottom of the food chain, won't eat for days so that their kids and or their significant other can eat. But that woman is doing the majority of the work, even more so than the man. And I'm a dude, okay? I've seen women do more work, which make them great CEOs, thought leaders, and co-creators, whatever you want to call it, that oftentimes I've seen kind of, in essence, men that are just kind of, I hate to use the word, but just they take them for granted. In life, the biggest nurturers of the family typically are the women. On average. I'm not trying to be like Mr. Hey, be the nerd. No. Women can run a house, run a business, make the budget, do everything without the man. I've seen it. It can be done. And oftentimes it is done, especially in the generation that we live in, right? It's oftentimes taken care of. A woman stands up, steps up, and says, you know what? Fine, I'll do it all myself. But, many women are tired. So they need help. Whether it's a significant same-sex partner, whether it's not a same-sex partner, whatever the situation is, they need help. Running a family, running a company, running everything on your own just doesn't make sense. Back to a CEO corporation, right? A CEO can only be a CEO if he has other people working for him, right? Or puts other people to work. So it's not an I mentality. It's a how do we help one another? How do I align myself with the right people to be able to make all this work? Family life is one of the most difficult businesses you will ever run. Okay? A lot of people don't think of it that way. They go, it's just a family. But hear me out, okay? A family, if you do right by your family, you're putting a lot of time, you're putting a lot of effort. Oftentimes you're financially trying to make it work. You're putting a lot of pieces together, and then you're dealing with all the things that come up in your children's life. Children right now are being pressured even worse than future generations, because I hope future generations will learn from our mistakes. But the family is like a business. You usually got the upper management, right? Known as the parent, that says, look, kids, let's be safe out there, okay? I'm going to equip you with the right things to do, this, that, and the other. Oh, by the way, let's go to school now, and you're going to get taught by an educational school system, which are going to fill in all the gaps that I can't do, but I got to go to work. That's delegating, right? Delegating responsibility to somebody else that you hope is going to be the proper associate in your life, whether it be an uncle, a family friend, an aunt, the right people, right? So in essence, you kind of hire other people to help out your corporation, right? You help out your business. Your own business is your family. And I keep saying that because in life, so many people put it as the last thing versus the first thing. What I mean by that is, even if you were financially destitute, you still have family. You still are going to be connected to your family. If you have kids and or are thinking of kids or have kids already, you're still going to be tied to your family no matter what. They could be bankrupt. You could be bankrupt. Everybody can go bankrupt. But you still got to band together and say, okay, guys, what do we do together, right? At one point, you're going to be so elderly, you're hoping they're still around to want to help you. Because what if now you're broke? The average American doesn't make a lot, by the way. I've done the numbers. I've crunched the numbers, and it's on average about $28,000 right here, right now. For a family of 4. They say in middle America it's actually higher, but I've been doing the math. Doesn't make sense. Doesn't add up. But let's just take 28,000, okay? Divide that by a family of 4. With basic needs, basic necessities. Now you've got 2 people working at, because they got to both work full time in order to just make rent, put food on the table, pay for some luxuries. Let's face it, credit card debt. But should it be so that the young children are put in harm's way? Shouldn't the children have a good life growing up? At least a average life, right? Given the opportunities to grow up and start over and or start anew or start without the pressures of life that we all have put, unfortunately, on our young generation. You all are running businesses. You don't even know it. If you're a sole proprietor and you're running your own business called Your Own Life and you are alone, you don't have a family, then you're a sole proprietor. If you're in a union with somebody else, whether you live with them, that's called a partnership. And if you put it on paper, well, that's called a corporation. Invest in your own family. Invest time. Invest energy. Invest resources. Invest. Too many families are breaking up right now. Too many families are throwing caution to the wind. Too many families are leaving the youth of our generation in such harm's way, some of it might be irreparable if we leave it unattended. Don't let the bankruptcy of your life be the bankruptcy of your family. Don't let your family members be driven to a point where they feel that there's no hope for living any further. Be a source of encouragement. Be a source of... How about you just be a source of good? Keep it simple. Be a source of a family friend. Be a source of being a good uncle, a good aunt, a good grandparent, a good nephew, a good niece, a good father, mother, daughter, son. But I think the kids of this generation don't know what that is until they get to be at least 18 and above, right? In some cultures, they learn at a very young age, but I would say at the average of like maybe 12. Some are forced to grow up very quick. Some are forced to work immediately in other countries. True. Because they barely make a dime. Barely. Around the world, we're not in this... Granted, I get it. We're in the United States of America, and let's face it, we're more privileged than most. We really are. We really are. If you don't believe me, go live in a third world country or watch a documentary of a third world country just trying to eke out a living. 28,000, you give 28,000 to a person in another country, they're rich. They can make a lot of money really quick. 28,000? They're all of a sudden living like millionaires because the economy that they're in is so desolate, so destitute. And yet they still have their family together. Sometimes I see the kids still smiling, still laughing, just playing little games with a little ball, which they made out of like trash. You understand? And if you don't, go check out some documentaries on Netflix or just spend some time outside of your own bubble and look at these documentaries of other countries and say... I say several things when I watch these documentaries. I say, wow, what would it be like to live there and be grown up in that environment? I don't care how much positivity you say to think. That kid has not a lot going for them just to start with. But they do have one thing. They're born with it. It's called love. Maybe they don't know the opportunities that exist out there. Maybe they're never going to be aware of those opportunities. Some areas they don't even have television. Some areas they rarely have radio. Some areas they don't even have internet. This is the world we live on. This is the planet we live on. And I would hope the United States of America, the land of the free, the land of the privileged, can wake up and start thinking like true people who want to create a cause of change. Let's be a cause for change, and then maybe we can cause some more good than bad. All right, people, I'm out of time. Make it a great day, whatever you do. Remember, life is worth living, and don't throw caution to the wind. Bye-bye, everyone.